We are now going to learn some basic Korean vocabulary. These are words that I think you should know in any language that you're even vaguely interested in. Hello, goodbye, yes, no, please, thank you, you're welcome, and I'm sorry. In Korean, there is a casual way to say things, and there's a polite way to say things. And sometimes there's also a formal way to say things. And yeah, that means that when you learn Korean, you have to learn 2 or sometimes 3 ways of saying the same thing. The casual way, the polite way, and the formal way. The casual way of speaking is used with close friends and people who are younger than you. The polite way of speaking is for strangers and people who are older than you, and people who are ranked higher than you. At work, for example, if your boss is younger than you still have to speak to him or her politely. The formal way of speaking, likewise, is used for strangers, people who are older than you, and people who are ranked higher than you. But moreover, it's the more common way of speaking when addressing a large group of people, and it's used in the military. You may also consider using it when addressing the elderly, just to show an extra level of respect. To surmise, I would say polite language is more appropriate for one-on-one interactions, and formal is more appropriate when speaking to a group or making a broadcast. Polite language and formal language can be used interchangeably. You can mix them into the same paragraph, and in fact, many words have only one version that is considered both polite and formal. However, you should not mix the casual language in with the polite and formal. That makes no sense. Either you have a respectful relationship with the person you're talking to, or you have a casual, friendly relationship with them. Your relationship should not change mid-speech. Another thing to note is that because of the way the 3 types of language are used, we get a situation in Korean conversations that we don't usually experience in English conversations. A situation where one person is speaking with formal language and the other person is speaking with casual language. Imagine an English conversation like that. For example, you would say politely and formally, "Hello, grandmother," and your grandmother would reply casually, "Sup, dog?" Even if you do by chance happen to have a grandmother who speaks like that, she would expect you to match her level of informality, so you would both be speaking casually. Or in a much more common situation, you would both be speaking formally. It is very rare that you have one person speaking formally and one person speaking casually in an English conversation, but this happens often in Korean. So now let's get to this vocabulary. Let's begin with hello. 안녕하세요. This is both the formal and polite way of saying hello. 안녕하세요. Korean words can be quite long. 안녕하세요. Why do we need 5 syllables just to say hello? Well, what it literally means is, are you at peace? Or be at peace. It isn't really a question that requires a yes or no answer. When someone says 안녕하세요, you should respond with the same. 안녕하세요. It's a lovely sentiment, isn't it? Wishing someone inner peace. But when we're talking casually with our friends, we don't want to say that big long word, so we shorten it to 안녕. And what does 안녕 mean? Peace. We English speakers sometimes kind of use that as a greeting too, right? Hey man, peace. 안녕. Now, what about goodbye? Well, there are 2 goodbyes, and which one you use depends on whether the people you are talking to are leaving or whether you are leaving. If they are leaving, the extra polite way of saying goodbye is 안녕히 가십시오. 안녕히 가십시오. 안녕히 가십시오. Notice it has that word peace in it too. That's because 안녕히 가십시오 literally means go peacefully, or go with peace. Remember, this is the extra polite way of saying goodbye. Now, same situation where they are leaving. The polite way of saying goodbye is 안녕히 가세요. It literally means the same thing as the extra polite version. Go peacefully or go with peace. The difference is that the first one was extra polite and this one is just polite. 안녕히 가세요. 안녕히 가세요. And to casually say goodbye to people who are leaving, it's what we learned just a moment ago. 안녕. To say goodbye to your friends, you can just say peace. Alternatively, you can say goodbye to people who are leaving by just wishing them well, without all that peace stuff. When we are polite, we say 잘 가요. 잘 means well, and 가요 means go. This literally means go well. To say it casually, you say 잘 가. Just cut off the yo part. 잘 means well, ga is go. This literally means go well. 잘 가. Now let's learn the type of goodbye that you should say when you are the one leaving. The extra polite way is 안녕히 계십시오. It is so similar to the other goodbye, right? The only difference is that it is 게 instead of 가. 안녕히 계십시오. So the literal translation is probably very similar too, right? This one means stay peacefully or stay with peace. 안녕히 계십시오. 가 is go and 게 is stay. The polite version of goodbye when you are leaving is 안녕히 계세요. Compare it to the polite goodbye for when they are leaving. And again, you see the only difference is that we change 가 to 게. 안녕히 계세요. Stay in peace. And when we're being casual, we can just say peace. 안녕. It makes sense no matter who is leaving. Peace. 안녕. Now, how do we wish someone well when we are leaving? The polite way is 잘 있어요. 잘 있어요. 잘 means well, and 있어요 means be. Be well. 잘 있어요. Now the casual goodbye for when you are leaving is 잘 있어. Same literal meaning, just more casual. 잘 있어. Now what if you are both leaving? Well, if you're both going, then you can both say go well or go with peace. So use these words. Here's a tip. If you really want to be respectful when you're saying hello and goodbye, you should do a bow when you say the words. And the bigger the bow, the more respect you're showing. Yes, I know it's a lot to remember. There are a lot of ways to say goodbye, but you'll find it easier if you notice the patterns. These two only differ by one syllable, and these two also differ by just one syllable. These four contain the same syllable ga, which means go, because they are used towards the person who is going. These two contain the same syllable 게, which means stay, and these two contain 있어, which means be, and that should help you remember that they are used towards the person who is staying. These five contain 안녕, which means peace, and these four contain 잘, which means well. Always look for patterns. It makes things easier to memorize. Let's move on to the word yes. The formal version is 예. The polite version is 네. Careful with this one. Don't get confused. 네 is yes. The casual versions of yes are and And no, well, the formal version is onimnida. The polite version is onio. This one almost sounds like no. That would be enio. And the casual version is oni. Notice the similarities between the yeses and the similarities between the nos. The next word is please. For please, the word you should learn is juseyo. Juseyo. However, this is used a little differently than the English please. If you want someone to give you something, then you say the thing that you want them to give you, followed by juseyo. For example, give me ice cream, please, is ice cream juseyo. Ice cream is a good example because it's practically the same word in Korean and English. Ice cream juseyo. Please give me ice cream. Or ice cream, please. But what if you want someone to do something rather than give you something? Well, you can use juseyo then too. Say the modified action word or modified verb, to use the correct terminology, and add juseyo to the end. We haven't learned any verbs at this point or how to modify them, so we can't really look at an example yet. But you can imagine it to be almost anything. Sit please, jump please, hide please, any action. The other way we can use juseo is when we want someone to do an action to a thing. Like, verb the ice cream, please. In Korean, the word order would be ice cream, verb, juseo. And we can imagine the verb to be anything that you can do to ice cream. Eat, scoop, drop. Just remember the word order here. Thing, verb, juseo. Using English words for an example, it would be ice cream, eat, please. Thing, verb, juseo. Remember, it's a modified verb, not the entire verb. Modifying verbs is still a little too advanced for us at this point, so that's something to look forward to in a future lesson. Now, to be extra polite, you can insert the word 좀 between the verb and the noun, or thing. A noun is a thing. Your sentence will look like this. Noun, 좀, modified verb, 주세요. If there is no noun, 좀, modified verb, 주세요. If there is no verb, it's even easier. Noun, 좀, 주세요. 아이스크림 좀 주세요. Remember, if there's no verb, the implied verb is give me. Now, what is the casual way to say please? Well, there is no casual way to say please. Think about it. The point of saying please is to be polite. So of course you're going to use the polite way of speaking when you say please. Remember earlier when I said never mix polite language with casual language? Well, here's the exception. When you say please, always use the polite form, even if you have a casual relationship with the person. Let's learn how to say thank you. There are 2 different versions of thank you with 3 different levels of respect each. The formal ones are 감사합니다 and 고맙습니다. Notice the consonant assimilation coming into play here and here. The polite ones are 감사해요 and 고마워요, and the casual ones are 감사 and 고마워. This version, the one that begins with 감사, is more fancy sounding. The other one that begins with 고마 has an interesting literal translation. Go means high, and ma is a reference to the earth goddess, Mother Earth. When you say gomoayo, you are comparing the person to a goddess, like in English where we might thank someone by saying, you're a saint. It's a little more casual, and this isn't really something you need to remember, but I personally find these kind of details really fascinating. Let's learn how to say you're welcome. You have a few options here. One way to say you're welcome in Korean is to say Gwen Chan Sim Ni Da. Gwen Chan Sim Ni Da. That's the formal way. Or you can say 괜찮아요. That's the polite way. Or 괜찮아. That's the casual way. This literally means that's all right. As in, that's all right. No need to thank me. Another thing you can say is 아닙니다. As we just learned a couple minutes ago, 아닙니다 is the formal way of saying no. As in, no, you don't need to thank me. And more casually, we can say 아니야. Again, it means no, as in, no, you don't have to thank me, or no problem. And finally, let's learn how to say I'm sorry. The formal way is me on ham ni da. 미안합니다. The polite way is me on he yo. 미안해요. The casual way is 미안해. 미안해. But there is another way to say it. If you mess up big time to someone very important, there's another way to apologize. And that is 주의 송합니다. 주의 송합니다 in the formal form, and 주의 송해요. 주의 송해요 in the polite form. So there's our beginner vocabulary. You can notice from the chart that the formal form of words usually ends in nida, and the polite form usually ends in heyo, or just yo. And the casual is a lot like the polite, except without the yo. So in English, we can add yo, yo, yo to everything to make it sound really, really cool. But in Korean, that just comes off sounding really, really polite. Feel free to stop watching the video now, because at this point I have taught you all the most common ways of saying this vocabulary. This chart and the transcription are available in the description, as well as 5 multiple choice tests with 5 questions each, so you can test yourself. It's a new thing I'm doing for you. If you would like to learn some alternative ways of saying hello, goodbye, please, and you're welcome, keep watching because we're going to look at those now. So we learned casual hello, 안녕, but there is another one that you might also want to learn, and that is what's up. It means you're here, or you came. It gained popularity because it sounds a lot like the English phrase, what's up? And you can add yo to the end to make it more polite. What's up, yo? What's up, yo? There's also a different way to say hello when you answer the phone. When you answer a phone in Korea, you say 여보세요. 여보세요. Here are a couple of alternative goodbyes. 잘 지내요. 잘 지내요. Or 잘 지내, which means leave well for when they are leaving. And these following ones can be used no matter whether it is you leaving or them leaving. 내일 봐요. 내일 봐요. Or 내일 봐. See you tomorrow. 또 만나요. 또 만나요. Or 또 만나. See you again. 건강해요. 건강해요. Or 건강해. Stay healthy. There are a few other versions of please. One you may have seen or heard elsewhere is 제발, which is a please for when you are in a very desperate situation and begging for something. 제발. Another one that a lot of phrase books and dictionaries give is 부탁합니다, which means I beg of you, and is really not used very frequently. I told you earlier that there's no casual way of saying please, but there sorta is. However, it doesn't actually make your sentence more polite. In fact, it makes your sentence more rude. And it's something that you say when your patience is worn out. That word is jewel, as in, I said Korean jewel. For when you've been asking for ice cream for an hour and you still haven't gotten it yet. I said Kareem jewel. Don't know about you, but my patience doesn't last that long when there's sugary food to be had. Let's move on. You're welcome. A common translation of you're welcome that you may see in other resources is chanmanio. But don't use this one. Never use this one. It means not at all, which is a reasonable response when someone says thank you, but it's just not how most Korean people talk. Okay, now we are thoroughly done. I tried to cover as many ways of saying this basic vocabulary as I could without making things overly confusing. Make sure you give the quizzes a try when you feel you've mastered it. This chart and the other chart are linked in the description. And now I am leaving you, so I will say 안녕히 계세요 and 감사합니다 for studying with me. Stay in peace and thank you for studying with me.